It's time for In Bed with Jed.
Welcome back to In Bed with Jed. If this is your first time, you picked a great night to pop your cherry. Thank you all for watching. And today we have a very, yes.
Pop your cherry. I like that.
Well, the first time is always the hardest, but it's always a lot of fun.
Tell me about
it. No doubt. And during the pandemic, we learned a lot of firsts, including Zoom, but we'll get to that shortly. And thank you for watching today. We have a very, very special guest, and I am so excited. Chris Korman, son of the beloved comedian and actor Harvey Korman. He is a producer, a brand builder, an agent, and he has done a lot, and I do mean a lot of work for charity and for learning disability awareness. And how do we know each other? Well, because he's also an author, and his book gets right to the point. It's, oh my God, it's Harvey Korman's son. So welcome, Chris. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Well, thank you, Jed, for having me on. It's amazing. You know, we both have a mutual friend in Sue and Richard Skipper. So it's not surprising that we eventually would have collided eventually, you know. So, I mean,
Yes,
I think, you know, they say the world's is big, but I don't think it's big enough that eventually you will come across the same people, you know.
Yes, and it's almost like 1970s TV. I like to say it's very incestuous.
It could be.
You did run across the same actors playing different characters over and over
God,
again.
Please. Oh, don't go there.
I'm
I'm still having nightmares about Love Boat and Fantasy Island on Saturday night.
Oh, really?
God. If you watch, I'll tell you, Jay, if you watch TV in the 70s, you watch Love Boat, I can almost guarantee you, some of the same actors who were on the Love Boat were on the next episode of Fantasy Island. I'm like, when did they have time to really? So it's like, if you were on TV in the 70s and you were at least somewhat relevant, you did Love Boat. You did Fantasy Island. It was like the pre-Murder, She Wrote, pre-diagnosis murder of its time. You know, to be fair, you have to keep your health coverage up. You got to keep your pension up. So, you know, 10,000 here, 10,000 here, you know, it adds up. You got children to support. You know, mortgages in LA aren't cheap. So, you know.
Yes, and I think it was also probably a sign of greater loyalty back then, too. I know that that's kind of a funny territory, you know, loyalty. But I know that if someone liked you, they kept working with you over and over again. In your dad's case, I get to see, and that's probably how I know him the best, from the Carol Burnett Show, because it's still on MeTV here in New York. And so oh, by the way, before we go any further, where am I speaking to you from? Where are you right now?
I'm in Las Vegas.
Wish I was. Okay.
Well, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It depends on the weather and depends on how crazy Vegas can get. I mean, it's you can only watch so many Dean Martin revivals and Elvis resurrections. I mean, we had Donnie and Marie here. We had, you know, Brooks and Dunn and Reba McEntire. You had Celine Dion here. We had Donnie and Marie here. And even at one time, we actually had a thing here called penis puppetry.
Oh, yes.
I think they did a tribute to Donald Trump, but it was a short run.
Oh,
the lump bump chink.
Puppetry of the penis. Yes.
Yes.
I remember taking pictures at the auditions. I didn't need to see the show after that. Yes, this is a true story. It was in New York briefly. Well, that's what I love about Zoom. I mean, 2020, there were not many great things about it, but we did learn how to use Zoom. And your book in 2020, yes. That was one of the few good things about the year there.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Jed. I really
Well,
appreciate that a lot.
yes, and I have to say, I need to start off with saying I loved your book, or as the
Oh,
kids
thank
would say
you.
nowadays, I heart emoticon your book so much. It was funny, it was poignant, it was informative, and it was loaded with pop culture references, which pop culture aficionados like me love so much. And I need to start out with how has the response to the book been so far?
From what I see on Amazon, it's getting 4 stars. People seem to like it. I also think it's because it's not a long book. It's not a tell-all book. It's not salacious, which most people I would think were hoping it was going to be. There's enough books out there like that, Jed. I want it to be a celebration of who my father was to me, because Carol's written about my father and everybody's written about my father, and that's fine. I can't begrudge them their interpretation of my father, but don't begrudge me mine. And so my interpretation of my father, in the fact that he never put his fame and his fortune ahead of my development, whatever learning disability challenges I might have had, it was never a sense of, oh, I'm a public figure. Oh, you stay in the closet, Chris. Like, you're the black sheep. My father and my mother never treated me like that. If we had celebrities over our house, or family or friends, yeah, I come downstairs. I had a speech impediment to overcome. I had a learning disability to compensate with. But it was never like, oh, he's a black sheep. We don't let him out. We only let him out of the closet. And I said to my dad once, it's like, if you think my learning disability, my speech impediment is the worst thing in the world, how do you think I deal with when I go to school one Monday and people say, what did your father do this weekend? I said, well, he dressed like a chicken or an Avon lady to make a living. So if anyone scarred anybody, you scarred me before I scarred you. And he said, look, I said, if you're going to shame your family, at least do it in an original Bob Mackie, creation. So
Yes, yes. Your dad did actually pop up. I was sometimes I don't watch movies as much as I love the YouTube reactions to the movie, and in this case, because of the holidays, they picked up Star Wars Holiday Special.
oh God.
Yeah, and I know the reviewer did say that seeing your father in drag, and he remembers when he watched it as a kid, he definitely had some psychological things to work out after that.
Oh, he did. Hey, let me tell you right now, I was in the parking lot for that thing. My sister and I were sitting in the middle of a Cadillac in the middle of Beverly Hills in an abandoned church while my dad went inside to put 7 different heads on and whatever, and act with B. Arthur. And my sister and I sat down in this big, huge blue Cadillac, and my dad went into this abandoned church in Los Angeles to do this Star Wars special. I thought, you know what? I thought Ishtar and Howard the Duck was bad. By comparison, this is Citizen Kane.
Yes, yeah, it's one of those movies that it's just better to watch clips of rather than the whole thing. I don't understand it. Diane Carroll appearing as like some virtual hooker for some underage Wookiees. I don't get that. But it was ahead of its time. It was ahead of its time because all they did was just sit around and watch things on their devices. So, in that case, they predicted the future.
But if you ask Harrison Ford, Art Carney, B. Arthur, or my father, they would say, don't remind me. I met Diane Carroll. I can tell you, I did not bring that up.
I'm sure she thanks you for that.
Oh my God. She was in a hotel in Baltimore where I was working, and I saw her in the restaurant. So I know she'd been on Burnett's show. So I walked up to her and I said, hi, my name is Chris Korman. I'm Harvey Korman. So we started talking. Now, to show you the baby boomer generation, this is mid-90s. Half the people in the restaurant of this hotel did not know who Diane Carroll was. And when I told them who Diane Carroll was married to Vic Damone, and all the things that all her credits. Diane Carroll, the bartender's like, Blazing Saddles, you idiots. Half the people in that room probably were born yesterday. I was probably one of the oldest people in the restaurant. So Diane Carroll was pretty much left alone, luckily for her. So it's amazing. Generationally, I'm 54. I grew up with John Ritter, Billy Crystal.
Yes.
The 80s was my era of television, to be
Oh,
fair.
yes. Yes. Yeah.
So,
Wow. Well,
yeah.
wow. Yes, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s as well. So yes, I know what Bowling for Dollars is, as you mentioned in your book. Yes. So you don't have to
was it
explain to me.
Wait, was it Celebrity Ping Pong? Oh God.
Exactly.
Oh
Now,
my God.
in a chapter in the book called "The One Hit Wonder," you write about your performance in I assume was a high school production or college of Bye Bye Birdie, and it got rave reviews. It was well received, let's say. And so you wrote and performed a skit in the school's annual Christmas show, which was a satire of Saturday Night Live, a satire of a satire, and you played a gay Christmas tree. Yes.
Wasn't my idea.
I'm so sorry I missed that. I really am. I wish I could have seen it.
I had wished my father had missed it.
Yeah. Yes.
As you could tell from the story, of all the times my father could have stayed home, that was the night to pick to stay home, and he chose to not only compound my embarrassment, he brought Dick Van Patten with him, who was one of my idols, life idols, acting idols. And what do? They sit down in the bottom low half of the stage, looking up at me. So they got a nice nostril shot, which also didn't help. And I'm dressed up in like a really bad La Cage aux Folles reject of an outfit. And I'm thinking, oh my God. Well, first of all, back then in the 80s, if you did a kind of swishy character, if you could hide underneath as being something else, that it's not as pronounced that you're doing. I didn't want to bash gay people because I happen to know a lot of people who are gay. And I happen to know a lot of people in my life that I love that are gay. So when I did it, I thought, I'm not doing it to be mean. And I really don't. And for those who are gay, I tell people I didn't do it to be mean. It was just one of those things where I was overdoing the dialogue because the dialogue was so stupid that I had to give something oomph to it to give it some life. So I started acting kind of like affectations of being overly exuberant. And
yeah. Well, listen, if I was going to play a gay Christmas tree, I would want to be over the top too. And I'm sure on behalf of gay Christmas trees, they forgive you. I'm sure.
I'm sure they do. I hope so.
I'm sure. Yes, we need more representation for that kind of thing, right? But that story just led me to. I really wanted to ask you this. So now, of course, when you have a child of a famous person, a performer, a showbiz person, it's always the same question. I'm sure you're so sick of hearing this, but did your parents? How did they? Did they encourage you to go into show business? Did they discourage you? Did you were they kind of like in the case I bring up Liza Minnelli, who's always said that like her famous mom was supportive but not encouraging, meaning like, okay, if you choose to do this, and trust me, anybody that chooses to do this, from what little I've seen of show business, you have to wonder, okay, if this is what you really want to do.
You have to wonder. You really do have to wonder about the parents of morality. You know what? I'm glad you asked me that, Jed, because they didn't, because the extent of my exposure to show business, you have to remember in the 70s, there was only 3 channels and PBS. There wasn't Twitter, there wasn't TikTok, there was anything that we have now. So my exposure to media and who my father was and my learning disability, yes, I was in magazines. Yes, I was in tabloids, not in a bad way. But because of the golf tournament, which is in the book, because I was a poster child for a school called the Marianne Frostick Center for Children with Early Education, since I was a poster child, once a year we had a golf tournament. And we had this golf tournament for 22 years. So I'm 54 now. I could say I've been in public life for almost 50 years for things that I had nothing to directly control. So whatever my brand was, Harvey Korman's son, poster child for Frostick, it was almost predestined that I would have to be in this world. So if I was going to be in the public eye, it was going to be for a good reason, not self-congratulatory. It was going to be about how do I use the platform of my name to say, this is how you compensate with a disability. These are the things you have to deal with. But there's a heightened sense of fantasy and excitement of, oh, you're Harvey Korman's son. Look who you've been exposed to. Yeah, but here's the ironic thing about being the child of someone's famous, Jed, is no matter how much wealth he had, it could not awash all my struggles. It couldn't like automatically go, okay, well, you're rich and famous, or your father's rich and famous, so you shouldn't have any problems. I don't get that correlation. I never understood that correlation. What does my father being famous have to do with my learning disability? I had no say in either one of those things.
Anybody who says that clearly either wasn't thinking about what they were saying or is just stupid, really.
Yes. So it's almost funny. There's almost like there's a healthy ambivalence I have to deal with, is that I have to play the Harvey Korman card in a way to promote the book. But then there are times where I just want to be Chris Korman. I have a degree in elder care. I am Patricia Korman's husband. I am Scott Korman's father. I wear many different hats. I'm friends to many different people. I wear many different hats throughout the day. But at the end of the day, I still have to be Chris Korman. And it has been very easy to lose myself in the identity of who my father was. I'm Harvey Korman's son, or I'm Donna Schindell's son, or I'm George Chicenzo's son. My stepfather was also an actor. He played Michael J. He's the one that hits Michael J. Fox with the car in Back to the Future 1.
Yes.
And he played Vincent Bugliosi in Helter Skelter. So I've been around acting since I was 5. So being around that world is not normal. Being in the limelight is not normal. I shield my wife and my son as much as possible as I can. Yes, Scott is in the book, and so is my wife. But on a minimal level, Jed, I try to expose them to that world because I don't want them to think that's the norm, because it's not the norm. So, but I want the book to be the celebration of who my father was, and that fact that he embraced the idea that, okay, you have a learning disability, but you can't use it as a crutch. And he always said to me, which is life credo I live by today, is, Chris, the only time in life you ever fail is when you don't try.
Yes.
But,
and I did, yes. And I remember that quote in the book very well. And I think it's great advice for all of us, whether we're performers or not, or whether we're overcoming, in your case, learning disability, whatever our personal challenges is in life. So.
So yeah, just bring on the questions, Jed. Bring them on. I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you.
But what you said before about that being exposed to that kind of lifestyle, and then having to be a regular person too. In that one chapter called Reality, you said, tomorrow I'd just be another high school kid, and not even a normal high school kid, but one who struggled with a speech impediment and who had a learning disability. Reality kicked in, crash. So that was, a lot, that really was. And especially when we're like teenagers and all of our emotions are so heightened and everything, that had to have been tough, so.
It hit me because after about the 10th or 12th year, I started seeing this insecurity, this transition back from Sunday Chris to Monday Chris. And I finally said to my dad, I might need to see a therapist about this and deal with this, because for 3 days I was God, and then I'm going back to being just another person in high school. And my mom said, I knew this was going to happen. And I'm like, no, it's not. There's not an over heightened level of insecurity, Mom. It's just I have to work through the idea that this is my reality, and I have to talk that out. But I wouldn't have given up this idea that 22 years of creating scholarships for people who couldn't afford it, I wouldn't have given that up. Whatever insecurities I might have had does not compare to the enjoyment and thrill I got knowing that I helped thousands and thousands and hundreds of parents get the scholarship funds so their children could achieve. So whatever insecurities I have paled in comparison I mean, I dealt with it on my own time, which was I immersed myself in the field of elder care. I got a degree in elder care, so I found my niche. I found a career. I found something that balanced out the show business part. So it gave me self-worth for myself. But I still, today at 54, I still have to find that balance of being Harvey's son and what is my own identity, what is my own self-worth. And so, it's not a cakewalk for anybody. I mean, in this world. And the children of the celebrities sometimes, Jed, get it worse than the celebrity. Because once the celebrity passes, who's going to take over celebrating that brand? The children. And they're usually the first victim or the casualties of a relationship in that world and the marriage. So
yeah,
I don't know why people seek fame and wealth. I really don't. It just.
Right. And now, and on that subject, so the subject of celebrity, you mentioned about how someone had observed, quote, "It sounds to me like the attention outweighs the depression." So you're dealing with some sense of like a cognitive dissonance, I would suppose.
Yeah.
Do you feel that that's probably common among most famous people? They struggle between, if I'm interpreting this right, it means the struggle to, you want that attention, you want the spotlight on you, but yet at the same time, it's kind of like scary, and it's difficult to maintain that position.
It's a double-edged sword.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You want it to help your career, but there are times when you're in a restaurant with your family, you'd prefer just being just another person. So you become a victim of your own success. You lose your anonymity. And then what do? You're asking your children to say, okay, you have to now share me with the rest of the world. So when my dad died in 2008, I didn't have the luxury of just saying, okay, you can't bother me about my father. He's a public figure. But to me, he was my father. To you, he's a celebrity and an artist. So I had to share my grief with the whole world. So I didn't have the luxury to be to self-contain my grief away from Facebook. I didn't have that luxury because I already had a Carol Burnett page up. I still have a tribute page up for my father called Dr. My Ears.
Yes.
So
based on an untrue story. I had to look that up, and I vaguely remember that movie coming out on TV, and
it was a TV movie, and it was so airplane. I mean, the dialogue in the movie was like, "Doctor, my ear." He's like, "Yes," and so it's Doctor, my ear, and my dad would say, "What's wrong with it?" "No, you're Doctor, my ear." Oh, okay, so it was airplane type humor. And so, but to be honest, Jed, the whole page was, I used it as a front, the title of the show and the movie, because my friend Kat Jensen, who was doubled for Diane Keaton and Morgan Fairchild in the movie, had worked with my dad. So I said, can I honor the movie? How can I honor you? And how can I honor the people who worked on the movie? And then give that as the foundation of basically being able to just celebrate pop culture, TV, as we both love, and talk about the memories that are the tapestry of our childhood. Love American Style, Love Boat, whatever it was, that we all can connect on we can all relate to our love for television. It doesn't always have to be a posting about my father. I posted something about Marilyn Michaels, the great impressionist, yesterday.
Ah, yes.
I connect people that I've connected with. I post people that I admire. People don't always have to humor me and always put things about my dad on there thinking that they're going to, ingratiate themselves with me. Put things on there that, you or anybody who loves comedy or sitcoms or stand-up can go on there and talk about people that let them up as people. I want people to share their memories of famous artists. It doesn't always have to be about my father. I'm not that egotistical to think that this world is about me and my father.
Wow. Yeah. Now, and on the subject of comedy, so I do love that one anecdote when you were describing his style of dress, and you said he looked like a pimp on Sesame Street, and he said, and I can imagine, again, we all have our own, and I know that he had that affectation. He was a character actor, but he had that affectation that every time, like I read one of his quotes, like with that story, or when you walked out like and you were wearing a shirt and your tighty whities with no pants on, and I can imagine him saying, as a child, I thought that was hilarious. Sounds like something I would have done. But I can imagine him saying, well, aren't you embarrassed? And because he had that kind of like affectation. So, and again, every time I imagine Harvey Korman saying a quote, that's how I hear it. So I would imagine him saying, well, I didn't know they had pimps on Sesame Street, and, but
yes, well,
was that, yeah, but was he really like, again, that's such a cliched question. I apologize. I'm sure everybody asks
all right.
that.
It's all right.
But did, most people want to know about comedians. Was he really that funny in real life? You mentioned his laugh, how it filled up a room.
That's a good question, Jed. That's actually a very good question. I think amongst family, it was inside jokes, it was family humor. But what is that quote? He wasn't on, oh, I'm always on. Like the red light on the camera goes on and a performer just lights up. At home, it was family humor. You could refer something to him about a movie he's done, but you didn't talk shop with him. You didn't analyze the acting process with him amongst family. Sunday brunch was tennis and bagels and cream cheese and a Dodger game. You didn't talk shop. He could be funny in the context of who he was as a person, but he didn't seek it out. He didn't have to hold court at the bar when families around. He could just be the father and at the house. When he was around his cronies, his show business people, yes, you had to be on and you have to match the energy of everybody else. But at home, he was father, who was funny. When he had to perform and he had to do his craft, he was very serious about it. He took his craft very seriously. He didn't take himself seriously, which might have been the saving grace in many ways, because it didn't go to his head. Because he did go to Goodman Theater. He studied with Uta Hagen. He went to the HB Studios. So I joking about my dad. I said, Dad, you have so much classical training. You had an existential crisis just saying good morning. I mean, you just couldn't just say good morning. You do 20 minutes at the icebox when the light goes on. I mean, geez, really? But I'll tell you, when it was parent-child conference time, let me tell you, the teachers on the other side were not getting Mr. Yuck Yuck Ha Ha funny guy. They were getting an advocate and a parent. And I guarantee you, my father knew more about disability law than they did. So you couldn't say, well, we don't have the money for this. But now, fortunately for me, Jed, I have primarily only gone to special ed schools. So there was really never really an issue of mainstreaming. I never went to a regular high school. So the emphasis was always on the development of the child, because our school, most of the schools I went to were only 80 deep. The whole school had 80 people in it. So there wasn't more of an emphasis on the development of the child. There wasn't just trying to get me through, just give him an A just to appease him. No, I had to earn my grades. I mean, as much of a struggle as it is, or it was, I didn't get a pass because I had a learning disability. My father and my mother would never allowed me to use that as a crutch. And another thing I also believe in is that so many people have sacrificed their life for me, doctors, teachers, whatever, took time away from their family so I could have the life I have. How would I feel if I dishonored them by giving up on myself when they sacrificed time for me? Why would I dishonor them by not trying my best to take all the great work they did for me and take that with me and inspire me to do greater and more, because they helped me do more and do better. So I feel like I'm taking every teacher, every counselor, every principal, every doctor with me in every journey I go on. That's the best way I know how to say it.
Yeah. And it's also that part that you share also, it's a good message to showing how we may be born with in your case, a learning disability, but it's the commitment by the parents and those around the child, as well as like seeking out those educational resources. And again, not treating somebody as it's different. It's like recognizing it, but doing all you can to try and fight it. That you overcame, overcame what was given to you. So to me, I found that very, very inspirational. So
Oh, thank you, Jed. Well, I have had, like I said, um, you're a
not that any of
performer.
that
So
was easy, I'm sure.
no, but I think you're a performer, so you'll understand this. When you're trying to establish your own brand, I think about this, all performers, singers are in one way or another, they are their own PR firm. You're marketing yourself, and the best way you have to find those forums, those worlds where you can distinguish yourself and separate yourself from everybody else. And my dad said the best way how to do that is don't give the world what they want, give them what they can't live without.
Yes.
And I thought, as a performer, you understand that is that you have to distinguish yourself from everybody else. Your message, your brand, your presentation's got to be uniquely unto itself. Everybody can say they have a disability. Everybody has challenges, but how do you deliver that that's going to connect with a parent or a child that they had not heard before? And that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to get on a speakers bureau for people with disabilities, is what is my message and how is my message going to distinguish from everybody else's, make mine uniquely my own. But I don't want to come off as like I'm whining about it, because I'm not. I'm saying I'm taking the information I got, take the challenges that I have experienced, and turn it into an educational component that has relevancy to others. And that's the only way I know that my disability has been a blessing, is that I can take that platform and help other people who think, because they have a speech pathology, oh my God, who's going to talk to me if I have a speech problem? Who's going to take me seriously? People are not going to take what I say with great importance because I stutter or, whatever. I said, you have to get over that. You have to stay your course and your development. And I had parents and friends and people who said, stay the course, Chris, keep on being what you need to be. Don't be what everybody else wants you to be, because then that's disingenuous, because I'm not like anybody else. I have to be me, and because I have my own specific learning style, and I can't be anything else but what I am. So, and that's one of the things I think, life lessons I got from my father and my mother and my stepfather and my friends and my family was, hey, we love you for you. That hasn't always been the case for me. I haven't always liked me for me, because sometimes I wonder who Chris Korman is. Yes, I'm a father, I'm a husband, all those things, but who's Chris Korman?